Today, let's talk about a life-changing principle that governs success, elegance, personal growth, and freedom: self-discipline. Many people think of discipline as a form of punishment or restriction, but in truth, self-discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect. It is choosing to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it, because you are loyal to your goals, not your moods. Self-discipline is not a personality trait reserved for a few naturally organized or stoic individuals. It is a deliberate, learnable skill, something that anyone, regardless of their background or temperament, can cultivate with awareness, intention, and consistency. One of the greatest misconceptions people hold is that discipline is innate, that some people are simply born with more willpower or drive. In reality, discipline is not about who you are, but about what you repeatedly do. It's a skill built in the quiet, often unseen, moments where you choose progress over comfort. The process begins with understanding that self-discipline is rooted in clarity. When your mind is cluttered with distractions, conflicting desires, or vague ambitions, it becomes incredibly difficult to remain focused and committed. But when you take the time to clarify what truly matters to you, your values, long-term goals, and personal standards, you begin to make decisions not based on fleeting emotions, but based on alignment. You stop reacting and start choosing, and this is where real discipline begins, in knowing what you want and why you want it. Contrary to popular belief, discipline doesn't thrive in rigidity or harsh self-denial. It flourishes in structure and self-awareness. People who master self-discipline don't suppress their needs or ignore their emotions. Instead, they learn how to manage their impulses, create supportive routines, and set healthy boundaries. They take care of their energy, protect their attention, and limit exposure to unnecessary temptations. Not because they're trying to live a joyless life, but because they understand the cost of constant distraction. They realize that long-term fulfillment always outweighs short-term pleasure. Learning self-discipline is also about understanding the role of decision fatigue. Each day, we are bombarded with dozens of small choices: what to eat, how to respond, what to wear, whether to exercise. People who lack discipline often burn out by trying to make each decision from scratch. On the other hand, those who have mastered discipline simplify their daily choices by setting routines, automating key decisions, and reducing friction. They know that willpower is a finite resource, and they use it wisely. Instead of relying on motivation, which fluctuates, they build systems that carry them through days when they don't feel inspired. Another important truth is that self-discipline is not a fixed destination. It's a moving practice. There will always be moments when you fall short, when your emotions get the best of you, or when distractions win. But discipline is less about never failing and more about always returning. It's about resilience. Each time you return to your intention, you reinforce a powerful identity. I am someone who follows through. This identity is crucial because our behaviors are deeply tied to how we see ourselves. When we act in alignment with the disciplined person we want to become, we build confidence from within, and confidence in turn reinforces discipline. It's a powerful loop. The idea that some people are just disciplined by nature is misleading and disempowering. Everyone starts from somewhere. Often, the people who appear effortlessly disciplined have simply made the decision again and again to act with intention, even when it was inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unrewarded in the short term. They've trained their minds to value consistency over perfection, and they've replaced excuses with standards. This is not luck. This is self-leadership. Ultimately, seeing self-discipline as a skill gives you control. It means you're not at the mercy of your mood, your upbringing, or your external circumstances. You can change your habits, sharpen your focus, and build an inner structure that supports your goals. Discipline becomes less about deprivation and more about empowerment. It's about choosing your future over your impulses and doing so with dignity and direction. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I'm just not a disciplined person, remind yourself that discipline is not something you have or don't have. It's something you develop, refine, and embody, one choice at a time. One of the most overlooked truths about self-discipline is that it is not simply about action. It is deeply rooted in emotional control and intentional lifestyle design. People often assume that discipline is about strict schedules, militant routines, or the iron will to resist temptation. While these elements can play a role, the foundation of sustainable discipline lies in the ability to regulate your emotions and design your environment to support your goal. Without emotional control, even the best plans fall apart. Without a consciously designed lifestyle, even the strongest willpower can be drained. To truly master self-discipline, one must understand and integrate both of these pillars. Let's begin with emotional control. Every decision we make is influenced, whether subtly or overtly, by how we feel in the moment. If you wake up feeling tired, it becomes easier to skip your morning routine. If you're anxious or stressed, you're more likely to seek comfort through distraction. Perhaps scrolling social media, indulging in unhealthy food, or procrastinating. Emotional impulses are powerful, and for many people, these impulses control the majority of their behavior. However, those who are disciplined don't suppress their emotions or pretend they don't exist. Instead, they learn how to recognize what they are feeling, pause before reacting, and redirect their actions toward their goals. This is emotional maturity. It's not about never feeling frustrated, lazy, or discouraged. It's about not allowing those emotions to dictate your decisions. There's a subtle yet profound difference between reacting and responding. When you react, you're driven by emotion. When you respond, you're led by intention. Developing this kind of emotional regulation requires awareness. Most people operate on autopilot, going through their day reacting to situations without realizing how their emotions are driving their behavior. Self-disciplined individuals pause to reflect. They might ask themselves, what am I feeling right now? Is this emotion driving me toward or away from my goals? This practice of checking in with oneself builds a habit of mindfulness that gradually replaces impulsivity with conscious decision making. It's important to understand that mastering emotional control doesn't make life easier. It makes you more resilient. The truth is, there will always be days when you feel low, when setbacks happen, or when people test your patience. But emotional mastery gives you the power to act with consistency even on difficult days. It separates you from the volatility of your circumstances. In this way, discipline becomes a form of emotional freedom. You no longer have to be a victim of your mood. You become your own steady source of direction. This brings us to the second component, lifestyle design. Emotional control and discipline cannot thrive in a chaotic or unsupportive environment. Expecting yourself to be productive, focused, and consistent while surrounded by clutter, distractions, and disorganization is like trying to run uphill carrying unnecessary weight. In contrast, a well-designed lifestyle removes friction and allows your disciplined intentions to flow with greater ease. Lifestyle design involves creating physical, digital, and social environments that align with your goals. On a physical level, this means keeping your living and workspaces clean, organized, and inspiring. When your surroundings are in order, your mind can focus with greater clarity. On a digital level, this means limiting notifications, controlling screen time, and curating the content you consume. The information you allow into your life shapes your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your actions. A cluttered digital environment leads to a cluttered mind. On a social level, lifestyle design means surrounding yourself with people who elevate your standards rather than diminish them. It is very difficult to stay disciplined in an environment where your goals are not respected or shared. You must be intentional about who you allow into your inner circle. Your relationships should support your growth, not sabotage it. This may mean spending less time with people who drain your energy and more time with those who inspire you to become better. Routine is another critical aspect of lifestyle design. When your day has structure, it becomes easier to stay disciplined because you remove the element of decision fatigue. Each time you have to make a decision, whether it's what to eat, when to work out, or how to spend your evening, you use up mental energy. Over time, this wears down your ability to make high-quality choices. But if you build routines that automate your most important habits, you preserve your willpower for what truly matters. For example, having a consistent morning and evening routine can anchor your day and help you maintain momentum. Another powerful aspect of lifestyle design is reducing temptations. This doesn't mean you live in restriction, but rather that you reduce unnecessary friction between you and your goals. If you're trying to reduce screen time, delete the apps that distract you the most. If you want to eat healthier, don't bring junk food into your home. Make the disciplined choice the easy choice. Discipline becomes less about saying no to temptation and more about creating a life where those temptations rarely arise in the first place. When emotional control and lifestyle design work together, discipline becomes natural. You no longer have to wrestle with yourself every day. Your emotions are acknowledged and managed, not allowed to derail you. Your environment supports your vision, not pulls you away from it. This synergy is what separates short bursts of discipline from a truly disciplined lifestyle. It's not about occasional self-control, it's about designing a life that flows in the direction of your values. This approach also allows for flexibility, which is often misunderstood in conversations about discipline. A well-designed lifestyle is not rigid or overly restrictive. It allows room for spontaneity and rest, but within a structure that ensures your core standards remain intact. You can be both disciplined and joyful, structured and creative, focused and relaxed. In fact, the more disciplined your foundation, the more freedom you experience in other areas of your life. That's because true freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It comes from building a life that reflects your highest intentions, not your momentary desires. The art of self-discipline is not about pushing yourself harder or forcing yourself into routines you hate. It's about creating alignment between your goals and your actions, your emotions and your choices, your values and your environment. When you align your inner world through emotional control and your outer world through lifestyle design, discipline becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. So rather than asking, how can I force myself to be more disciplined? A better question might be, how can I create a life where discipline is the natural outcome? This shift in perspective changes everything. It moves discipline from being a daily struggle to a way of being. And once that transformation happens, you no longer rely on motivation or willpower. You rely on clarity, structure, and inner strength. That is the essence of mastering self-discipline, designing a life that supports your best self and building the emotional intelligence to stay true to it. Self-discipline is not an abstract ideal or a trait reserved for a chosen few. It is a practical, learnable skill grounded in self-awareness, emotional mastery, and intentional living. It begins with mental clarity, knowing what you want and committing to it with purpose. It strengthens through the quiet practice of emotional control, choosing to respond with intention rather than react with impulse. And it becomes sustainable when supported by a thoughtfully designed lifestyle, one that removes friction, fosters growth, and aligns with your values. Discipline is not about being perfect or hard on yourself. It is about becoming trustworthy to yourself. Each small promise you keep, each mindful decision you make, and each habit you strengthen moves you closer to the person you are capable of becoming. You don't need more motivation. You need structure. You don't need to be harsh. You need to be consistent. And most of all, you don't need to wait. Discipline begins not in a grand gesture, but in the next small, intentional choice you make. Mastering self-discipline will not make life effortless, but it will make it deeply fulfilling. It will give you the power to shape your future, build your confidence, and live with dignity and direction. In a world full of noise, distraction, and instant gratification, discipline is not a limitation. It is a form of quiet strength, and that strength is available to anyone willing to practice it. One focused day, one aligned decision, one self-respecting choice at a time. Thank you.